The CGA Tour, a podcast unlike any other. Now your host, Calvin Alexander.
Welcome back. Got Detrick here joining me. Detrick, can you introduce yourself a little bit and how you tie into the Oklahoma State wrestling program? I know you're a big wrestling fan, of course.
Yeah. So I'm the director of marketing and fan engagement at OSU. So I run all of the marketing efforts for both wrestling and baseball. And then I help out with a bunch of other sports and a bunch of other projects that we have going on. My two main focuses are wrestling and baseball. And, wrestling got a lot of attention this year just with the new coaching hire and everything. So I do everything on the marketing side, from coordinating with our digital marketing director on digital ads and emails to the traditional stuff to the grassroots marketing, everything that happens locally and in Stillwater and on campus. And then I also direct all of the live entertainment. So if you go to any sort of sporting event ever, there's a whole lot of live entertainment that is not just like the actual sport happening. So, football's played on a field and you watch football, but there's tons of things happening on the video board with the audio, with hosts running around. All that's kind of coordinated and set up through our office and what I do. So, lots of coordinating for that.
All right. Well, of course, everyone knows now. Wyatt Hendrickson wins Captain America, the whole deal. Air Force transferred to Oklahoma State for his final year. Take me through how big of an upset this is in context. Cause I think you and I both know I might have played music at one point for wrestling as an intern, but there's clearly different definitions of how to do that. And also I'm not the biggest wrestling fan, but this was huge. I mean, this is the biggest win ever.
Yes and no. It's hard. It's weird to call it the biggest upset when they're ranked number 1 and number 2, right? And you look at, I think it's just a testament to how good Gable is, but Wyatt Hendrickson has one of the highest pin percentages for heavyweights. He's got a ton of tech falls and he's a guy that scores a lot of points all year. He's undefeated all year. Then you get to the national tournament. He's the only wrestler that pinned his first 3 guys. So he pins 3 guys and then goes up against a defending national champion in Grant Kirkfleet from Penn State. And he beat that guy who he lost to last year. So you look at that and you look at his resume and it's hard to understand how he's an underdog. But then when you go and you look at Gable Stevenson's resume, he was undefeated for 1,099 days leading up to that. And part of that because he was on hiatus and other stuff, but he was also a 2-time national champion. He was also an Olympic gold medalist. So he was already competing at a level above what NCAA wrestling is. And, then he comes back and it was one of those things that unstoppable force, immovable object. Nobody was really prepared to give up the fact that Gable might lose. And he did. Wyatt Hendrickson came out and did what he needed to do and won a national championship for Oklahoma State.
Why did he win in the final seconds? It made it very climatic, made it very awesome, but he won 5-4 in the final couple of seconds, 13 seconds left. He's up.
Yeah, it was, I think Gable gave up, and not gave up as in he was broken in any sort of way or he stopped, but he got that first takedown. And if you watch his body language, after he gets that first takedown, he stopped trying to score. A lot of his shots were half shots. He had a few shots in there that were pretty good, but if you look at what Gable did early in the tournament, he did something that nobody had ever seen before. He got a guy disqualified because he got 5 stall calls within the first period. So every guy he wrestled leading up to that was scared to wrestle him and would back out and back out and back out. And Gable was just forward pressure, forcing these guys out of the circle, getting these stall calls. You saw a little bit of that in the first period until Gable got his takedown. And then when he got his takedown, the forward pressure stopped. I think he knew how good of a wrestler, and I think he respected how good of a wrestler and how good of a season that Wyatt was having. And it got him off his game. He started backing up a little bit. He was taking half shots and not committing. When he touched the leg, he wasn't going full out and putting himself out there. He was kind of letting Wyatt get away or escape. And Wyatt took full advantage of that. Spent about 30 seconds setting him up for the final shot, set him up, and absolutely nailed it.
In football terms, or maybe basketball terms, or any individual terms, right? Maybe basketball terms, the best way to put it. Is this Michael Jordan coming back to play college ball and going up against, I don't know, the best player in college this year, but it's clearly different competition.
Yeah.
Is there some kind of analogy here? You can put this in better context. I know before we started recording, you were like, hey, individual sport, it's just different. But what's kind of a good...
Yeah, I think Michael Jordan's a good comparison. It would be like Michael Jordan going to the Olympics, winning with the dream team, leading that dream team, and then coming back to UNC and then leading the exact same dream team and a college team, any college team, doesn't matter how good they are, upsetting them in the final seconds. It's Usain Bolt winning his gold medal and not immediately, taking a year or two off, coming back to college, having a season where nobody gets even close to him in any race. And then in the very final second, he gets overtaken of his 100-meter dash or whatever.
How big of a deal is this for Oklahoma State wrestling? Like, does this just help out recruiting? Is this like the top moment Oklahoma State wrestling, like past 5-10 seasons? I'm not asking you to go back forever because I know you and I interned together, Oklahoma State, but again, we haven't graduated 10 years ago or more. It's been a couple of years, but still.
Yeah, it's pretty big. It's definitely up there. You always want your biggest moments to happen on the biggest stage. And I think Wyatt definitely did that. To be the final match at the 2025 NCAA tournament when the Cowboys were one of the most talked about teams because of their new coach and some of their transfers. And then have this match against, one of the cool things is Gable Steveson has done so good at wrestling that wrestling fans know him, right? Everybody who's a wrestling fan knows Gable and enjoys him. But he's gone to the WWE, he's gone to the NFL, he's done some other things with his life where he's bringing in new viewers that may not know that much about college wrestling. So the biggest viewership and the most known wrestler in college wrestling by non-wrestling fans just got beat by a second lieutenant in the Air Force. So I think it drew a ton of eyes and it's gone plenty viral. So yeah, it's probably one of the biggest moments in cowboy wrestling history. But with a 100-year storied program, that's a big thing to do. I think Nick Piccinini, pinning Spencer Lee in 2019 and Gallagher, I think that's a pretty big moment, but I'll be honest, I don't think it's on the level of what Wyatt just did. I think Wyatt just set the new tone. I think it really brings in this new David Taylor era. A lot of people have questions. A lot of people were, he's never been a coach. He's never done this. A lot of people were saying can't. A lot of people said couldn't. And I think the Cowboys and Coach Taylor kind of proved everybody wrong in this postseason.
I gotta say, I love wrestling. I've been to several wrestling matches before I went to Oklahoma State, then of course at Oklahoma State, then of course, and I've watched some afterwards, but to see all this national attention is truly incredible. Is there something to you that made this match just that much bigger or more of a national stage because Oklahoma State was third? Is that kind of what cemented them also being third versus maybe being fourth, or is that already locked in? Like, how does this put in the team context for wrestling?
No, it was pretty locked in. The past couple of years, I think Penn State, all credit to them, has really kind of separated themselves and made a giant gap that felt like nobody could get into and that they were just going to be on a dynasty forever. I think Oklahoma State chased down that gap a lot. And remember, we were third. Nebraska chased down that gap a lot too. I think Nebraska is getting overshadowed. The fact that Nebraska kind of came out of nowhere. I say out of nowhere. They had great wrestlers, but nobody was really predicting them to finish second. Not at the beginning of the year, not at the end of the year. And they came out and they proved what they're about. So I think Nebraska did a fantastic job closing that gap. I think Oklahoma State did a great job closing that gap. There's still work to be done, but I think it provides a level of excitement of, hey, maybe that dynasty won't be there forever. We're on the right track.
And what happened with Iowa? I mean, I know we had a match against them during the regular season, but do they finish fourth, or it seems like no one's talking about them whatsoever?
I'm okay with that as an Oklahoma State guy.
Yeah. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, they finished fourth. Stephen Buchanan, he wrestled at Wyoming for Coach Branch, who's a Oklahoma State alumni, was an All-American there, transferred to OU, was All-American there, and then transferred up to Iowa and was the first guy to ever be an All-American on 3 different teams. Absolutely incredible season. He's a very, very, very good wrestler. He was their only national champion this year, which was kind of surprising. You know, Iowa was supposed to finish second according to all of the polls and all of the professionals' opinions. But they had a rough start. They had some guys lose early. They had some guys go 0-2. I think a lot of that was, you know, as it is with every team, there's injuries that happen throughout the season, and some guys were hurt and maybe didn't perform quite to where they wanted to be. But, you know, Iowa's just one of those schools that people are talking about how much of a down year they had. They finished fourth. So I'm not sure how much of a down season that is. I'm sure they'll be back in the top 3 conversation next year.
Comparatively, like to the other Oklahoma State events that you've been a part of, granted, like 2023 Bedlam, 2021 Fiesta Bowl and Bedlam. Sadly, we didn't win Bedlam during our college years, but maybe other things. I mean, we did win Bedlam in basketball and other things too. Where does this rank in like Oklahoma State events that you've watched all time?
So I don't get to watch a lot of away events because I'm always working the home events.
Well, but I mean, like,
but even live,
yeah,
top 5 easy.
Okay,
top 3 probably. I think number 1 is the 2019 Iowa duel, Oklahoma State Wrestling versus Iowa. Nick Piccinini, Spencer Lee. I was running music that day and I was still an intern. I had every volume meter maxed out and I couldn't hear it. And that's the first and only time that's ever happened. So that was really loud and really exciting. And I think it's a little bit different when you're there and a part of it. But as far as watching something from afar, I don't think I've ever screamed at a TV or jumped up and down and lost my voice screaming at a television out of excitement for that event. So as far as away events go, that's probably number 1.
And well, Oklahoma State didn't just have 1 All-American or 2. What, it was 6, I think, total?
6 All-Americans, 2 national champions. Let's not forget Dean Hamiti. Dean Hamiti had one of the deepest weight classes that there was. Dean Hamiti and Wyatt both beat 2 national champions to become a national champion. In the semifinals, Dean Hamiti, 174, beat Penn State, Levi Haynes, who again, everybody thought would be the one to come out on top. A lot of people were saying, you know, Dean Hamiti can't win a big match. Dean Hamiti can't do this. Dean Hamiti can't do that. Dean Hamiti did it all this season. He lost 1 match against Keegan O'Toole in the Big 12 championship. And then he got to, you know, reclaim that loss, if you will, in the national championship where he beat him, became a national champion. So in one of the deepest weight classes, Mean Dean got it done and came out. So it may not have been the biggest moment virality of the tournament, but if you look at, just star power and how deep and how tough that weight class is, for him to not be an All-American last year, to not be a top 8 guy at the end of last year, to come into the hardest weight class and become a national champion is absolutely incredible.
Can you put that one in context a little bit too, of like, he changed weight classes too, right?
Yeah. He jumped up a weight class. And, you know, depending on what different wrestlers do or just how their bodies are, sometimes that's a good thing. Sometimes that's a bad thing. It seemed like it worked out really great for Dean. Oklahoma State's coaching staff and training staff are on another level. So they're really, really good at working with those guys and getting them safely to whatever weight they need to be at. And I think him jumping up, let him gain some muscle and do a few more things, outside of that weight cut. And, you know, I think he learned a lot of technique here and he had a lot of confidence all season. You could read it on his face and in his body language when he was wrestling and he proved that he was the best. There's no question that Dean Hamiti should have been the national champion and he was.
Well, the other 4 All-Americans for Oklahoma State, where does this rank like compared to last season Oklahoma State wise wrestling? I know, I mean, last season John Smith retired. It's not seen as one of the best seasons, but kind of in context here, or just putting words to it, how do you rank this season compared to maybe since 2019?
2019 was a really good year. It's probably our best season since then. You know, the competition gets tougher and tougher every year. Looking at Penn State and Iowa and, you know, the Nebraskas that come out and surprise people. I think this is by far our best year, definitely since 2019, maybe since beforehand. So they're absolutely incredible. I think we had 2 All-Americans last year and we tripled that and we went from no national champions since 2021 to 2 in the same season. Last time we did that, I believe, was 2016 when we had Derringer and the other Mean Dean. But yeah, so it feels really good to be on that right track again.
Where do you see the program going here on out with David Taylor?
Oh, I mean, David Taylor, I cannot stress this enough, is a visionary. I mean, you talk about business, you talk about wrestling, you talk about marketing, you talk about fans, you talk about technique. This guy wants to be the best at everything. He wants to be the best coach, and he wants his marketing people to be the best marketing people. So me working with that, he gives me every resource I ever need. He wants his trainers to be the best trainers. He wants his director of operations to operate at the highest level. There is no second place in his mind. I think he has a quote from the national tournament that explains it perfectly. He never trained to be second and never will. And he exudes that not only in the room with the guys, but through his entire staff everywhere. So I've had several conversations with him. We meet quite often, and he's really putting this program and all sides of this program on another level. And his expectations are high. But he gives us the resources to make it happen. And I think the results speak for themselves.
Where I guess, what do you think needs to happen for us to overtake Penn State? Because the one thing from a basic wrestling knowledge fan perspective that I might have is it's Penn State and then everyone else. Penn State, maybe like you could put a bunch of feet in between, but Dave Taylor is a former Penn State guy who seems to be bringing in, a training complex in the Stillwater, previous Olympic athletes as well too. What do you think needs to happen for that to change?
I think that just, talking about David Taylor and how he's elevated the program, he elevates all sides. David Taylor was not a product of Penn State. Penn State was a product of David Taylor. David Taylor got there and kind of created that dynasty and created that momentum that program has. And now we have that momentum. He was the guy that led Penn State to where they are now. So now he wants to come and he wants to lead the Cowboys. So I have no doubts about Coach Taylor.
All right. Well, awesome. Well, is there anything else you kind of want to add in here that I'm missing on how big of a victory? Wyatt Hendrickson and Dean both get off the plane, holding the trophies, go over to softball.
Yeah.
Wyatt does a backflip. The whole deal, right? Like, it just seems like this weekend for Oklahoma State athletics was insane. You got Victor Hovland winning as well. OSU softball winning 2 out of 3 against Baylor. Baseball, I think, won 2 out of 3. Might have won 1 out of 2 in Utah, but anything else I'm missing here?
And I think, I think the fans have a lot to be excited about. And I think the fans are really what made this year in wrestling different. You look at our attendance numbers, and for a program that's had 100 years of success, right? We've been successful for 100 years. To have an attendance record and to break that attendance record by 30% is absolutely insane. That attendance record was broken by 30% without our top 4 historical attendance draws. We had no OU. We had no Iowa. We had no Penn State. We had no Iowa State. Historically, those are the top 4 wrestling attendance draws. We didn't have any of them. And we beat our record by 30%. If that doesn't tell you how great the fans are and how much they care about Oklahoma State wrestling, then nothing will. Look at the amount of people that showed up to the airport on 3 hours notice. I got texts from guys that live in Wichita that said, we're driving down, we're speeding down, we want to come welcome the team home. I said, oh, are you, in town for something else? And they said, no, we're coming to welcome the team home on a flight. And that's after, a 3rd place finish. We had 2 individual champions, but we didn't win the team championship. And these fans are so great and so behind this team and so behind this coaching staff that it oozes out everywhere. You take them to softball. You have the head coach of the softball team saying, yeah, get those guys out here. I want to shake their hand and congratulate them. I want to, have Coach Taylor out on the field. That's something that only happens in the home of wrestling, and Stillwater is the home of wrestling.
34 national championships.
34 national championships. Oh, now my math's all wrong. 145 individual national champions and 492 All-Americans maybe now.
I saw like at 200 national champions. What was that about?
That's individual national champions across Oklahoma State athletics. So we have 201 individual national champions across athletics, but 145 of them, I believe, are wrestlers.
I mean, Stillwater's where it starts and ends. It's got a scene.
Yeah, it really is.
What's going to happen when we get 35? Is that when we build a statue? For Detrick?
No, not for me. Never build a statue for me. I think 35 is a lot closer than people expect it to be. But
yeah.
I'm excited about next season. I'm excited about the season after that. I think, not to pat myself on the back, but I think we had one of the greatest shows in wrestling this year. If you come to a live event, I think we put ourselves on another level there. Again, all credit to Coach Taylor and what he's pushed me to do and what the resources he's been able to provide. And I was texting with the coaching staff not even 24 hours after the national championship. And it was, okay, what do we do for next year? How do we double down? How do we make sure we're even better? How do we increase the gap that we've built over some of our competitors? So, the future is very, very, very bright. The present is extremely bright, and it only gets better.
All right. Well, I also want to put this Gable Stevenson guy. He was on the Bills practice squad after never playing a snap in college football. Signed for a 3-year contract and then got cut, which, I mean, NFL contracts aren't guaranteed, a bunch of other stuff like that, but WWE guy, former. What was the season for him so far? Like, what was he leading up to this season of like, was this his best season ever going into this match and then Wyatt knocks him off?
I think so. I mean, it's easy to say, no, it's not his best season ever because he didn't win the national championship. But if you look at what he did this year, he did not have a true offensive point scored on him. He was never on his back. He never got taken down the entire season. Those two things should put you in the running for the Hodge Trophy, which is essentially the wrestling Heisman, immediately. And he was so dominant that he scared other wrestlers, again, to get disqualified by stalling 5 times in one period. That does not happen.
At the NCAA now.
At the NCAA tournament where you're supposed to put it all on the line. People were scared to wrestle him. That's how good he was. It was, when he announced he was coming back, people gave him the NCAA championship. And let's be honest, he deserves most, if not all, of that praise. I think he was towards the height of his wrestling career, and Wyatt Hendrickson found a way to win and did what Wyatt Hendrickson does. And he knocked him off.
Well, it sounds dumb here, but I do want to ask, like, why are these guys scared and like getting disqualified at the highest level? Some guys got to be their last year ever, they're wrestling and going out on top. I mean, are they scared of getting injured? Are they scared of like, this isn't boxing where like, I mean, there's no holds barred.
Nobody. So like I said, he's never been taken down. So people don't know what to do against him. So I think a lot of wrestlers just keep backing up, trying to find a shot, trying to find an angle, trying to find a way to score. And by the time they realize that they're out of bounds and they get a stalling call, because it's that hard to score on this guy. They know if they go under that Gable's a lot more athletic than 99% of these guys. Wyatt's one of those guys he's not more athletic than. Maybe by a slight margin, but if you look at a lot of heavyweights, there's a new breed of heavyweight, and that breed is big, athletic guys. It used to just be the biggest guys you could find. But if you look at Wyatt, he's maybe 260 and the top of the weight class is 285. So you're saying, why aren't you putting that 25 pounds on? Well, it's because I'm more athletic at 260 and I'm faster and I can hit my angles and I can do all of these things. So I think there's a new breed of athletic big man coming into NCAA wrestling. And I think, Gable was a big part of kind of shaping that and people being able to see, hey, I can be an athlete and win, not necessarily just the biggest guy in the room. Even though Gable is still most of the time the biggest guy in the room. But yeah, then Wyatt came in and also an absolute athletic specimen and was able to handle it.
Well, big shout out to Dean, of course, and Wyatt. Wyatt's going to go now be in the Air Force for 4 years. I mean, like he's said on the interview, so
he's got 3 more years of wrestling. So with this WCAT program, part of the World Class Athlete program is he gets to wrestle, I believe, and don't quote me on the details, but I believe he gets to wrestle for 4 years. And this program allowed him to wrestle 1 year in college and then 3 years internationally representing the Air Force, on a international stage. So he's of course going to go try to win an Olympic gold medal. That's his goal, as it should be. In doing that, the Air Force is letting him take his 4 years to try to go win that Olympic medal representing them. Then his 5-year clock of service will start. So he's not getting out of any service. This isn't replacing any service. It's simply delaying it so he can go win on behalf of the Air Force and this world-class athlete program. So he still has all of his duties that he needs to do, but he'll be in Stillwater for another 3 years. He won't be wrestling for Oklahoma State University. He'll be a part of the Cowboy Wrestling Program, the Regional Training Center, but he will not be a part of OSU.
But, and also he won't be competing in NCAA, right? He'll be just competing in the Olympics. I mean,
in the Olympics
and representing the United States. I mean,
right.
At least he's not representing Minnesota or, Iowa or Penn State or whatever. He's representing the United States. I mean, he's
the United States.
Captain America. He's got the flag. He's saluting the president, as he wins. It's a cool deal overall.
He hit 3 or 4 viral moments all in that 2 minute span. And it was glorious to watch. I'm not going to lie. I cried that night. It was beautiful. I'm a big Oklahoma State fan. We went to OSU together, and it's hard not to love this program. But, I never wrestled in high school. I never wrestled in college. It was one of those things that I picked up when I got here and figured out that I loved it and I loved the sport and wanted other people to love it. And so, I think when you see moments like that kind of touch everybody in some sort of way, it draws more people to wrestling, which is what wrestling needs. We need non-wrestling diehards to pick up and start watching the sport. And I think that moment of virality has definitely helped the sport moving forward.
Awesome. Well, Detrick, thank you so much here for joining me. So already follow at the CGA Tour and make sure you show up to Cowboy Wrestling as the season starts up in what month?
Probably November.
November. Okay.
And then they're hosting the National Dual Championships. So instead of individual points counting towards the win, we'll be hosting something in Tulsa where we'll take the top 8 teams and they will all wrestle as teams. So it'll be a dual format for the best team in the dual format. That was a thing they did a long time ago and kind of got away from, but, Coach Taylor, being the visionary he is, has worked really, really hard to put something together to bring that back. Really excite people and excite different, fan bases in wrestling and just give them another chance to show off and have another tournament that means something. So, we'll be doing that in November as well, I believe. And then we'll have a couple of home duels probably around then. There's no schedule that's set yet, but that's usually where it ends up.
All right. Well, mark your calendars for November. Get your season tickets sooner than then, of course.
They're on sale right now. You can go and reserve yourself a GA season ticket, and then we'll sell upgrades later once we do some seat moves and stuff like that. But yeah, season tickets are on sale right now. You're going to want to go get them fast because they're selling out.
Well, I will be sure to do that. So, hopefully I can attend and join with you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm sitting in the stands, but hearing all the great music and enjoying it from a different perspective than working it, of course. Well, and then if you're not already, please sign up for the Remember the 10 run. It's April 19th, same day as Oklahoma State's football activities on the field. We're not saying game because no one else is saying game, but make sure to show up on April 19th for the 10 run, and all links will be in the description below. Thank you again. And anything else you want to shout out?
Go Pokes, baby.
That's it. All right. Love it. Thanks.